Good afternoon, and welcome to Cultivating Better Connection and Understanding with Clients for Improved Outcomes. My name is Emily Tills, and I'm going to be your host for today. I am the CEO and owner, as well as lead dietitian for Nourish with Emily, which is a one-on-one nutrition coaching and consulting business that was started at the end of 2018. I'm a graduate of Marywood University's Coordinated Program in Nutrition and Dietetics, and I do hold my master's degree in Applied Exercise Science with a concentration in sports nutrition from Concordia University of Chicago. I do have 5 years, almost 6 now, experience of building connection with clients through my practice, which leads us to us being here today. These are things that we're going to be talking about that I use every single day with my practice, as well as have my co-coaches use also. Here are our disclosures. I am the New York State Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics liaison for the regional transition. I do own a nutrition coaching and consulting business, and I have received an honorarium for this presentation today. Here are our objectives. Participants will record 3 key questions to ask prospective clients and followers to gain connection and understanding. Participants will evaluate current strategy of rapport building with clients to better ensure connection and relationship. And participants will write 3 questions to add to their nutrition assessment forms to better understand the client's expectations and goals. Now, if you don't have a nutrition assessment form that you can edit yourself, you can always ask some of these questions inside that first appointment with that new client. So let's dive into this. Imagine this. You meet with your doctor for your annual physical. You check in at the desk, the nurse brings you back for vitals, and then you sit there and wait for 5, 10, 15 minutes, sometimes even more, inside the exam room for the doctor to come in. They knock on the door, they come in. First, they call you by the wrong name, or maybe they say your name wrong, although you've been going to them for years. Then they ask you how things are going at the pharmacy. You don't work at a pharmacy. You've never worked at a pharmacy. You're a registered dietitian. You correct them and you remind them, nope, I'm a registered dietitian. I work at X practice. This is what I do. You find that you're a little annoyed by this because you know for a fact that they have your profession written down in the chart, as well as they have your name and what you prefer to go by as well. You brush it off the first time it happens, but then you find that every single time you go in for an appointment, your name is wrong or they say your name wrong, and they also ask you about a job that you don't do. Maybe they think you look like another patient, but if this is happening pretty frequently, it can leave us feeling pretty upset, annoyed, if not more. For many of us, we are feeling annoyed at this. We are feeling upset. Some would say maybe triggered because it's putting us in that weird situation. When we come into an appointment and the person we're meeting with doesn't know who we are or what we're doing, or maybe even what we're in there for, we might feel a little bit standoffish. You might feel a little bit preoccupied too throughout that appointment time together. How likely are you to ask questions as you were when you were coming into the office, especially if you're preoccupied? Maybe you could joke about it and you say, you know what, I must look like another patient, but I'm sure after a while, it does get a little annoying. Now imagine how our clients might feel if we go into a meeting with them and we're looking over food logs and we might be making recommendations on foods that they don't like and they've told us this before. Maybe we are making recommendations around tracking calories, but we forget that this client has a history of disordered eating and may have used tracking in the past as part of their restriction. This might come off to the client that we're not paying attention, that we're not listening to them, that we're not understanding what they do. And we, just like us, if we're sitting in that exam room with the doctor, they're going to be less likely to ask questions. They're going to be less likely to engage, and they're going to be less likely to come back to us for another appointment. We know that retention is a huge piece of success for our patients. One visit is not going to fix all of their nutrition needs, and we want them to come back for more appointments. For us to achieve better outcomes, whether that be hitting their goals, a better relationship with food, changing their lab results, or improving health, we have to know our clients and know them well. And this is far beyond knowing what their goals are, what their lifestyle is, what their approach is towards food, their mindset with these changes. Maybe it's their readiness for change. Maybe it's our relationship with them. We have to be aware of all of those things in order for our clients to make progress and to receive those really good outcomes as well. We have to also know their motivation for them being here with us. And that might help to also spark that deeper level of connection that helps our clients see long-term success. So we know that when clients feel and know that they are being seen, heard, and understood, that they are more likely to create better buy-in to their goals and the changes that we might be recommending to them. When our clients see us asking them or hear us asking them how their weekend was, what they did, what they're looking forward to, what they might have coming up that they're excited for, they know that we have a vested interest in them. And we do. We have a truly vested interest in them. But we need to help break down those walls and help our clients know that we do really care. And sometimes it's digging a little bit deeper, and maybe it's not always talking about what their goals are first and foremost. For many, seeing a dietitian can seem really, really scary. They might feel like we're going to tell them to stop eating all of their favorite foods. If we can break down those walls, it's going to be easier for them to make progress faster and easier than if we don't create that connection with them. When we remember and recall things that we've talked about with clients, maybe it's their dog's name, maybe it's their kids' names, maybe it's a little bit of their schedule that you know that they work in the office on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you're able to say, okay, let's plan how those days are going to be different from the days that they are working at home. Clients are more apt and likely to listen to us and to be more willing to make some of these changes. It always impresses me when my therapist remembers my partner's name, that my mom was diagnosed with cancer last year. She knows what we're looking forward to. She knows when we're getting married, all of those things. And it's so much easier for me to create better connection with her that we should be doing the same thing as well with our own clients. So where does this all start? Rapport building and connection are at the top of our funnel always. Before we talk to somebody, we want to get to know them. You're going to let somebody into your home, you want to know them first. And it's the same thing too. If we were going to go into a patient's house, we want to get to know them and they want to get to know us. They don't want it to feel like they're just letting this stranger into their house. So we have to start building that rapport. And especially if you're doing anything online, but also in person, this is part of our funnel. This is part of how people come in and get to know us, is we have to start at that top in building those relationships, because people will buy and they'll work with us when they know, like, and trust us. And building that rapport is key to building that know, like, and trust factor. So it starts before they even work with us on social media, with prospects, with referral systems. We need to be super clear in all of these areas, how, who we work with, who we're looking for, as well as help the client get to know us as well too. Think of it almost as like an icebreaker that maybe when you were in college or sometimes you can do at work. There might be icebreakers. It's a similar thing with our patients as well. They're built to use for us to get to know each other and to feel more confident in those situations. And we know that when a client feels more confident with us, they're going to share more of their journey and their story with us as well. So where to build connections on social media? We all know that we have to have a niche. We all know that we have to know who we are talking to, but it should be going deeper than just knowing who our prospects are. Knowing who you're talking to and what you're attracting is so important. We have to know our ideal client, but deeper. You might know that you love working with weight loss, or you love working with people who have GI issues. Maybe it's Crohn's and colitis, but we also have to know what their struggles are. We have to know what keeps them up at night. We have to know or try to figure out what words are they using when they are struggling, and how can we make sure that we can help relate to these patients or prospects, that we see them and we know them and we hear them. We maybe want to know where they live or where we are attracting our clients from. This might be another question that we could ask maybe on a sales call or when you're getting to know somebody. But we can also see this too, for the most part, with social media. Many people will tag where they are or what they're doing, where we can kind of figure out where they're geographically located. Social media also tells us, especially if you're an Instagram user, where a majority of our audience is. It'll tell us states or regions, it'll tell us age, times that they are active, and so much more. But we want to make sure that we are putting out there what we also want to get from other people. So if we're using our content to attract and connect with others, we want to make sure that they are learning about us as well too. Because remember, we are building that know, like, and trust factor. So after they join our tribe or our community, don't sell them if we're trying to get to know them, if you're trying to open up a conversation with them. I can't tell you how many times I've deleted and blocked from those bot messages that I get from trying to sell activewear or someone to get me to join their group business coaching program, whatever it is. I want to feel moved to be able to work with you if I'm interested in that. And it's the same thing too for our prospective clients. We should never make them feel like they have to, or never come out and be like, hey, here's my program, this is what you should buy. I want people who are so motivated and excited to work with us that they come asking us for that information. So after somebody joins our community or they're following us on social media, say thanks for being here. Send them a message, send them a voice memo, whatever it is. I like to say, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you're here. If you ever have any questions or you need some help, or you have ideas for content that you want to see, let me know. And more times than not, they are so willing to open up to me and say like, hey, I would love to see recipe ideas that have enough protein and fiber to help keep me full. But coming in and saying like, hey, I acknowledge you, I see that you're here. It's like opening up to the door to your home. You're not just going to let somebody in and not say anything. So if we can say, I see you here, thank you so much. If you need anything, let me know. Very similar to if we were going into a clothing store. And another way that we can build connection on social media, Facebook and Instagram are great for this, polling our audience, asking them silly questions and asking them fun questions. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But polling our audience and asking them questions for input is really a great way to help know the people that you are following, help the people that are following you know you as well too. So these are some of the 3 types of questions that I like to ask. Fun questions like, what are you doing this weekend? Do you use body wash or bar soap? Random question, but it usually sparks a huge debate. Do you use cream or milk in your coffee? What's the thing that you last ordered off of Amazon? How often are you ordering off of Amazon? It'll tell you a lot about buying tendencies, but also just more information as well too from the people that are following us. And these fun questions, we love to talk about ourselves. People love to share their twists or what their thoughts are. So asking more of those questions is really a way for us to get to know the people that are following us. We could do info gathering questions. So I like to do polls for these. And I try to do polar opposites as far as with what those choices are. Like, do you pack your lunch along with your kids? Yes, no, sometimes, or maybe, or haven't thought about that. How long is your commute? If someone is saying like 30 minutes, there might be more apt to learn more about exercise. If it's an hour or more, you know that maybe if they come down your pipeline and are going to be working with you and you remember that information, that you might have to talk more about planning and prepping meals for that situation. What do you drink on your morning commute? Do you drink water first or do you drink coffee first? Who does the cooking in your house? How often do you go out to eat? Some of these things can help to then shape our content for us, as well as help to give us more information that we can unravel with people as they are working with us too. Another info gathering question I like is, how often do you order takeout? These are one of the big things that we cover inside of one-on-one coaching with clients. We often like to ask, what does your lifestyle look like after they're already a client? But asking them about, their habits with takeout and all of that can really be helpful too. And then problem questions. These might be ones that are hitting more of their pain points. So how long have you been trying to lose weight or make a change with your health and nutrition? What's holding you back right now? What's your biggest struggle with health and nutrition? Is balanced eating easy for you? Do you feel like you have a solid nutrition foundation? These are questions that then help me to phrase my content, as well as if I'm getting up on social media and doing a talking head. So not only am I learning more about our patients and prospects through those fun questions, I'm also starting to learn more about what keeps them up at night. What are they most concerned with? What are their goals? And how can I then position myself to help these people? But we're gathering all of this information to be able to share with those prospective clients. And if we're having a deeper conversation, be able to reference some of those things as well too. Social media is like the door welcoming somebody into your home. This is where the learning about our client begins. On your profiles, if you have a sales call set up with somebody, you might be able to prove and say, like, oh, they have a dog, or they like to travel, they have kids. Take note of this mentally. These are things that you can bring up on the sales call, not in a creepy way, but in a way where you can say to them, like, oh, I saw you have a dog. What's your dog's name? Oh, we have a similar dog. He's a long haired dachshund. Creating more of that small talk, but conversation and connection is so important. If we can make a warm and welcoming environment on social media, the conversation to become a client becomes so much easier. I did this last week as we were filling our group coaching program. I reached out to someone who had been following us for a while. We have a connection as we both like the same band. And I asked her just for some feedback on our messaging. And I just wanted to make sure, I didn't think that she was going to buy, but I wanted to make sure that things sounded clear and specific to her and that she understand what we were going for. And is this something, if she were to be looking for a group program, would she be interested in? And it turns out that we bonded again over the band that we both love. We talked about our upcoming plans, and she gave me great feedback on one of the programs that we were offering, and then decided to join the program as well too. So having that connection with people and remembering those things can really help us in that long game in the long run as well. So in-person connections. In-person networking is one of my favorite ways to build my B2B network, knowing that other businesses in the area might be able to refer other clients to us as well. So when I am at an in-person networking event, I love asking about them. People love to talk about themselves. They love to be listened to. So ask about them. What brings them to the event? What are they looking for? Why are they there? How can we help them? Maybe it's what they are looking for or what their goals are. So that might be more of the networking with other businesses, but we can also do this too. Let's say you were at a health fair. You can ask somebody at the health fair, why are you here? You know, what brought you to come today? Is there any vendors you were excited to see? What are they looking for their goals? Maybe it's offering them something first, like recipes, handouts, freebies to open up conversation. I do this nifty setup when I'm doing a health fair where I have a couple different snack ideas, and I give out recipes as well. And I'll start and say like, hey, you look hungry. Do you want a snack? And usually when somebody is taking something from us, they are more likely to sit there and listen to what we have to say. Another great conversation opener at something like a health fair or a tabling event, or even if it's a networking event, ask them if they know what a dietitian does. Because most people will think it's the food police, or you work in hospitals, or you work in, which is all normal. But for many of us who are in business, we might be doing more of the one-on-one client work or group work. And we can say, actually, this is what I do as a dietitian. Dietitians can work in all of those venues. Here's how I'm different from them and what I offer as well. But giving them something first, just like if they're going to enroll on our email list, we're giving them something, recipes, whatever it is. Same thing too for those in-person events. Hey, I brought this along. I think you would like it. Grab a snack, or this is one of my favorite recipes. It makes weeknight dinners so much easier. So the referral network, I'm thinking in here more of the physicians we might be partnering with or other referral systems. This might be another like B2B networking situation, but we really want to paint a clear picture on who we work with. Who are those clients that you adore and what their qualities are? Maybe you love working with women who are between 25 and 35. You can work with older women, but you really, really enjoy that. Telling those referral networks that this is what you are very, very good at and what you can help with is so important. Asking them as well, do you have anyone in mind that might fit with what we work with. And they may be like, oh, like I know somebody, I came across somebody, or I don't have anyone in mind right now, but I'd love to have your information so I can send people your way. We want to make sure that we are working with the people that we can help, which is why painting that clear picture on who we work with and who those clients we love and what we're best at is so vividly clear for those other referral networks. So asking for the referral is huge, but then also telling them, this is what I'm looking for. Do you have anyone who might be interested, or anyone who might be connected with women of those groups or men of those groups or people who have those conditions as well? Connecting while making them a client. So we talked a lot about social media. Now let's talk about, well, we can connect with them while making them a client. I used to sign clients through a high pressure scripted sales process that would take 45 minutes. I would get so nervous beforehand. I would just feel anxious. I'd have to play music to calm myself down. I'd be jumping up and down. I would be so nervous to make it happen. And really, I'd be asking them, like what your goals, what your mindset is, how ready are you to change? And it did not leave me feeling very great. It left me feeling icky. It left me feeling, not like a scammer. I won't say that, but more of like the feeling like we're pressuring somebody into work with us. And that's not the vibe that I want. I want someone who's excited to work with us. And so after I had done that for a while, I decided to change. The result with that high pressure sales script was often that clients struggled to find a groove to reach their goals. And these clients had a hard time going through the entire process. They might have tried to quit early, or they might have, throw up the white flag and say, you know what, this just isn't for me. I'll struggle forever. I knew what I was doing and I knew how to close clients and I know how to make the change, but it didn't reach and resonate with the clients to help them to be successful. I wasn't building enough of that buy-in and that understanding with them in order to create the change, which is often what happens when we create a high pressure sales option. It's the tell me what your goals are, tell me how ready you are for a change. Do you promise to tell me at the end of this call if you are going to sign up or not? Which there are some places that have the space for that, and that's great. But I've been able to change our process and change our outcomes to really help our clients with long-term success now. Now, I ask one simple question. Tell me your nutrition story. That is it. I'll warm them up on the call. I'll ask them about what they have going on. How is their day going? Did you do anything fun this last weekend? And I'll say, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited to be with you here today. I just want to hear your nutrition story. And they'll usually ask me like, well, what do you want to hear? And I'll tell them, tell me it all. As much as you want to give me more information so that I can make sure that we are on the same page, that I know that I can help you. And that also too, that I understand kind of the process that got you here and how we can make those changes going forward. Tell me your nutrition story is such a powerful statement or question. That's a huge piece to opening up the door and getting more information than what are your goals are, what have you done in the past, how ready are you for change? So used to in those sales calls, I would learn that they live in New York. I'd be like, where am I calling you? Or where are you? Where are you calling in from? Tell me about your family. I'm married and have 2 kids. Which is great information, especially timing and knowing a little bit of background. However, I wasn't finding out the real issues. Now, with Tell Me Your Nutrition Story, I'm finding out that her mom died last year, and food has been a major coping mechanism for her. She wants to be able to walk her dog around the neighborhood again, but can't due to pain in her joints. She loves cooking fun meals every week for her friends. So just asking that, tell me your nutrition story, give me the background, opens up more of that information where we might have to address more of the relationship with food and emotional eating. We might have to look at what nutrients can also help with reducing the pain in her joints. I also might be able to give a referral to another practitioner that I'm partnered with as well. And she is someone who I may not need to spend a whole bunch of time giving lectures on meal prepping, planning, and cooking, because she already knows how to do that. She's already doing that. So before, I would learn that their goal was weight loss because they would come on and say, I want to lose weight. And that their goals were important to them. Of course, their goals are important to them. And that they have failed before, because that was the messaging that I was putting out, is that I knew that their goals were important to them. They want to lose weight. They have failed before. But asking that, tell me your nutrition story, has opened up. I've learned that they've been struggling with their weight since 25 years old after a breakup. I think this patient that I'm referring to was about 45, 50 at the time. So she's been struggling with her weight for a while. She's done things like restrictive dieting, keto, and Weight Watchers, and she does tend to emotionally eat after the family goes to bed. We've opened up so much more information, and I now know more of what we need to work on throughout our time together. Than she wants to lose weight, her goals are important, she's failed before. Tell me your nutrition story is going to give you more information than tell me what you're looking for, what you've done in the past, as well as hear their pain points. You're going to hear about how they might have struggled with disordered eating. You're going to hear about maybe there's some barriers for them to get groceries every single week. You're going to open up the door to help you create a better plan for your client to have success in the long run. Knowing that information now helps us know that emotional eating and mindless eating may need to be that one of those first things that we cover with that patient. We might need to use other client examples for those that have similar stories and how they have helped them. I really like to do this. Sometimes I'll disclose some of my own story, but I also like to share a little bit of snippets from other client stories as well, if they have similar stories to them, and maybe they can find inspiration or be inspired from how Susie Q had done great, and this woman is going to do great also. That's a similar situation, knowing that they are not alone in this and that other people have walked that walk first, and that we're not going to lead them down the wrong path. Disclosure really is disarming. Acknowledging what happened, where they are now, can really open the door for what comes next. Thanking them for sharing some of that hard information. It is very often that I'll hear people get a little bit teary-eyed on these calls. And it's just because that they know that they've struggled for so long, and they're upset with themselves that they've let themselves struggle for so long. But I wouldn't know that unless I asked that question, tell me your nutrition story. And, they'll often ask too, well, how much do you want to hear? I like to say, tell me it all. Whatever you think is relevant. I don't care how much time it takes. Tell me it all. Tell me what you think I need to know. So building that rapport and understanding, if you need to disclose, or if you want to and feel comfortable with disclosing your own nutrition story, that is perfectly fine. Especially if I am connecting with somebody who might have a history of disordered eating. Sometimes I'll share a little bit how I was in their shoes as well when I was in high school, and how that inspired me to build my business and create change, and how I'm here to help them and prevent them from going down that path as well too. We're talking to real people, and we have to treat them like real people. And we need to make sure that they know, and they know that we care, and they know that we're here for them. So after the sales process, they are now a raving client of yours. They're so ready to go. But that first appointment is so important for us. We still need to keep building that rapport and getting to know the client. My initial client calls are about an hour long. This helps us get to the deep, dark, what's going on, your nutrition past, your health history, what you've done, what you're looking for, where we can go now. We really want to know what kind of brought them to this point, without not repeating the same questions as in the sales process, because we're taking notes and we're keeping all that stuff diligently there, but making sure that we know what's going on and what brought them to this point. We want to know where they want to go from here, and that's really what that first appointment is about, along with starting to unpack some of those things that we may want to work on them throughout our time together. So let's make them a rock star client. Rapport building questions. So before we dive into calls, I always like to soften it a little bit, because sometimes people can be nervous before they're hopping onto our one-on-one calls, because nutrition can be tough for people to talk about. Oftentimes our nutrition is tied to emotions and other things too. So we sometimes need to let things a little loose, open them up. So for one of the clients I had recently, I remember asking her, I remember you're a toxicologist. How did you get into that? What brought you to this point? And what I learned from her from there is that her husband is a physical therapist. She was in school to be a physical therapist, realized she didn't want to be a physical therapist anymore. So changed and got her doctorate degree in toxicology and like microbiology. And now she does toxicology and she's the head of her department. That's a lot of information I wouldn't have known before. So diving into how did you get to this point? What brought you here? How are you here as far as for work? Anything fun and exciting going on this weekend? Or what did you do this weekend? Those can create great connection points. What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends? This can also help us look at their structure and their routine to see if there might be something nutrition wise that we need to talk about. Tell me how you felt coming into this appointment. Now, most people feel excited. Some people are going to be nervous. I have found with one of the physician's offices that I work with that they don't know me as much before coming into that call. They haven't probably followed me on social media. They don't know what's happening, where they might feel a little bit nervous, and being able to acknowledge that with the client or the patient and say like, hey, I understand that. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm not going to shame you for what you're eating. I just want to know how you're doing. History questions. I put these on the nutrition assessment forms, and I highly recommend you have some similar to this on yours as well too. So in your own words, describe your relationship with food. Was food used as a reward when you were younger? Do you turn to food as a celebratory thing? Do you feel guilty when you eat foods that are deemed bad and unhealthy? These are things that I'm going to be working on with the client for a while. This is not a one lecture conversation here, but this gives us an idea of, oh, this is why they usually go for ice cream. It's because when they were younger and they didn't feel well, their parents sent them over to their grandparents' house, and grandma used to always give them ice cream. So now I know if they're having more ice cream, that something might be going on and we might need to unpack that or make a referral to a therapist. Aside from a weight loss goal, what non-scale related goals do you have? Do you want to feel more confident? Do you want your clothes to feel better? What does success look like to you beyond the scale? As somebody who primarily practices in the weight loss space, this goal is so important because we know that sometimes weight goals can feel really lofty or really far away. Asking these things of what we can measure every single week of how their clothes are feeling, how their energy's been, how their bowel function is, can really help us track their progress and help them keep the motivation high too. What are your non-negotiables with food? Now, I never tell a client that they can't have something unless it's spoiled, bad, something like that. But I want to know, do you always order out pizza on Fridays? Do you go to the grocery store and you love pretzels and you have to have pretzels with lunch? One time I asked this to a client and he said to me, Emily, I need to have 2 glasses of red wine every night because I have 6 kids. And I sat there and I processed it for a second. I was like, okay, I think we can make that work. But I wouldn't have known that. And I wouldn't have then made a recommendation of like, we need to get rid of this if it was something that was really impeding his goals, because it was something that was important to him. And he was choosing a nice red wine and we were able to make it work and he lost the weight. But these questions for sure are really, really helpful with building that rapport and then also getting more information out of them. What are 3 things you want to change with your health and fitness? These are really important too, to give us some of those low-hanging fruit options that we can start with when making progress and change. How do you like to be coached? This is another big one as well. Somebody may want you to be on them all the time saying, nope, let's correct, let's do something different. That we need to know how they want to be led and guided. What is your biggest challenge? And you can phrase this however you'd like. It might be, what is your biggest challenge with weight? What is your biggest challenge with exercising consistently? What is your biggest challenge? And lastly, I love to include anything else you think I should know, because sometimes there might be something that I've missed on the history questions, but they might be able to disclose to us here of like, oh, by the way, I'm a work at home mom. My kids are with me 3 days of the week, 2 days they're at the babysitters. Those days that they are home with me is really, really difficult for me to stay focused, and I need quick meals those days. That helps me so much when making recommendations to them. So these are the rest of those great questions. So here's how we've been able to use them with clients. throughout our time together. So these are direct from some of our clients' intake forms. Their information has been removed, of course, but I found out with this first one that food, her life has always revolved around food. It was definitely a reward tied to nostalgia and traditions. They love going out to eat, spending time together out. This has continued for their date nights. So we know now that she goes out to eat. She's been told by her paternal grandparents genetics, and that that this is something that she needs to be aware of. So there's a lot of stuff that we can unpack here that's going to help me understand what this client is looking for and how we can make those changes. Any history of disordered eating that we should be aware of. This is one that I did not include on that previous list, but especially if you're somebody who is doing weight loss, I highly recommend having this question on your questionnaire, because this has helped us to make other referrals to other, eating disorder dietitians, as well as therapists as need be as well. So this gives us a better idea. They know that they might have a little bit of emotional eating, sometimes binging, but never associated with purging, restriction, or excessive tracking. So she might be okay with tracking her food, but we might be paying more attention to her hunger and fullness around those meals because of the emotional eating that she disclosed here. How do you like to be coached? I want someone to be realistic with me, give me structure and accountability, but also help me feel not defeated or shame. And as we all know here, we are never pushing our clients towards shame. We're here to help build them up, but this gives us an understanding that they don't want things sugar-coated. They want the structure, they want the accountability, they want someone to call it how it is, but not in a meaning way, of course. The other, describe your own relationship with food. Food was used, complicated. Food was used as a reward. There's heavier meals. Grandmother would try to fatten them up. All of these things can really help open up and give us more information to work with. What challenges do you have to reaching your goals? Time constraints with cooking and meal prepping. So that's something that we might work on, of what quick and easy meal ideas can we incorporate for this client for her to feel better. So she felt too restricted and missed certain food groups like fruit, yogurt, rice, beans, hummus, starchy vegetables. She's someone who had done Optavia in the past. And I remember on that first call with that client, when I was like, you're not eating anything with fiber. We need to increase your fiber. I was like, have an apple or something. I believe it was back in the fall time. She started crying on the call because she was like, you mean I can't have the fruit? It's not super sugary. I shouldn't be concerned. No, you should not be concerned. So this information helps us a lot. The cooking and the time constraints, of course, but one thing, and that helps us to know, maybe we do want to focus on some of more of those convenience items. And what are those 3 things you want to change about your health and fitness? I want to stop the cycle of restriction, indulgence, and regret. I want to build fitness, weightlifting, movement back into my routine, but in a fun and non-punishing way. I might make a recommendation for her to try out a class, a high energy class that's got music bumping, that's got all that stuff going on. And she wants to eventually get back to the point where she's not having to measure and track her foods to live and eat healthy. So I may not even have this client track her foods to begin with. I might have her just doing pictures of things rather than looking at the calorie density of what she's having. So this questions, especially when I tell our clients on those initial forms to be thorough, be specific, give us all of that info. It's going to help us so much in creating their path and their goals of helping them to get there. And then we know what they're looking for, and they know that we understand them too. These questions help to create better understanding on what we're doing with clients and what matters to them. It gives them an outline of where to start with the behavior change process. We might know from some of these answers what those lowest hanging fruits are that we could start to tap into. These questions are posed along with the usual nutrition consult questions like medical history, medications, exercise, weight history. What was your weight 1 year ago? What is your highest weight? Healthy pregnancies, recent labs. But these are things that are going to give us more information about what we need to do, because there's the by the book of they have diabetes, but there may not be as much tied into, or we need to maybe focus more on, let's get to more of the emotional eating, which is causing more of those diabetic responses. As a client, we want to check in on their goals and their progress, make sure that we're tracking that accordingly. Maybe it's tracking them with them or tracking them on our own. Ask them for feedback. Ask them what's working for you, what didn't work for you, what do you need from me to be successful. I had this conversation with a client the other day where he was saying, like, I thought you would come in and go through my pantry. I don't do that in my practice. I said, I can come back and give you some quick and easy meal ideas that we can talk through on our next call, as well as guide you through some of those choices, maybe when you're out to eat. Celebrate their wins and progress. Something might seem so small to them, but if they're like, I was able to move my belt one notch closer or one notch tighter, that's huge. We know that they're losing weight. We know that they're losing fat. We know that they're gaining muscle. And I love to also use the motivational interviewing and active listening. This is something that there are plenty of trainings out there, and I highly, highly recommend using. It definitely helps to create better buy-in with our clients and understanding, and they really enjoy us as well too. So on social media, this is how we're connecting with them. We want to connect to get to know each other outside of nutrition and health. They're probably following us for a reason. Maybe if we're at a networking event, help me know what you're struggling with. How can I help you in that sales process? Help me understand you, your journey, and your goals. Whether it's someone who's going to be paying you out of pocket or through insurance, we still want to know that we can help support them. And in the nutrition counseling, let's unpack all those things holding you back and what you're looking for. So here are your action items. Revise your nutrition assessment to include more information about goals, past goals, motivation, and desires. Include client stories, pain points, struggle in social media and your advertising to help aid in understanding and promotion of what you're doing and showing how we connect with other clients. Maybe it's the approaches that we have taken with other clients or what that looks like. Create a list of open-ended questions to ask on your initial initial client sessions to aid in greater exploration and connection. So I'll leave these up here for a couple of seconds. Here are our sources, motivational interviewing, other guidelines and all of that. These are great. And I can send these over to anybody if you are interested. And lastly, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to turn it over for questions, but if you'd like to, please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can check out our Nourish with Emily website or follow me on Instagram. We are on there all the time. But thank you so much for joining us and glad to have you here with us today.